You don't remember the exact moment you realised he wasn't coming back. Maybe it was the Father's Day card you made in school that had no one to give it to. Maybe it was watching other kids get picked up while you waited alone. Maybe it was the silence at the dinner table where his voice should have been. Or maybe there was no single moment at all. Just a slow, quiet knowing that settled into your bones like winter cold. He wasn't there. And somehow you understood that meant something about you. This is the psychology of a child who grew up without a father. And if that's your story, then you already know. The absence doesn't just leave a gap, it rewires everything. How you love, how you trust, how you see yourself in the mirror and wonder why you weren't enough to make him stay. Today, we're going deep, not to blame, not to victimize, but to witness what happened to you. Because until you understand the wound, you'll keep wondering why it still bleeds. Let's start with what no one tells you. Father's absence is not a single event. It's 1,000 small deaths. It's every school play where you scan the crowd and he's not there. Every birthday where the phone doesn't ring. Every milestone you achieve alone, wondering if he'd be proud, if he even knows, if he ever thinks about you at all. And the world moves on like it's normal, like half of you isn't missing, like you're supposed to just adapt, be strong, get over it. But you can't get over what was never processed, and this was never just about him leaving. It was about what his leaving taught you, that love is conditional, that you are not enough, that the people who are supposed to stay will leave, and worst of all, that maybe it was your fault. Children don't have the cognitive ability to understand abandonment as an adult failure, so they do the only thing their developing brain knows how to do. They internalize it. They make it about them. If he left, it's because I wasn't good enough. If he didn't call, it's because I wasn't worth the effort. If he built a new family, it's because I was replaceable. This is called internalized rejection. And it doesn't go away just because you grow up. It becomes the lens through which you see everything. Every relationship, every disappointment, every time someone gets close and then pulls away. You don't just think they're leaving, you know they will. Because that's what people do. That's what he did. And here's where it gets complex, because father absence doesn't affect everyone the same way. It shows up differently depending on who you are. Let's talk about what it does to boys, and then what it does to girls. For boys, losing a father is losing a blueprint. It's losing the answer to the question, what does it mean to be a man? You grow up without a model, without someone to show you how to be strong without being violent, how to be emotional without being weak, how to lead without dominating, how to love without leaving. So you either become him or you become his opposite. You either repeat the pattern or you run from it so hard you can't even recognize yourself. Some boys become hypermasculine. They build walls. They reject vulnerability. They prove their strength by never needing anyone, because needing someone is what made them weak in the first place. Other boys become lost. They drift. They struggle with identity, with purpose, with the gnawing feeling that they're always performing masculinity instead of embodying it. And some boys become what psychologists call compulsive caregivers. They overcompensate. They become the father they didn't have, not just to their own children, but to everyone. They fix, they protect, they sacrifice, because if they can be the opposite of what hurt them, maybe they can prove they're not him. But here's the tragedy. No matter which path you take, you're still running from the same ghost, and you can't outrun what lives inside you. Now let's talk about girls. For girls, losing a father is losing the first man who was supposed to show you what love looks like. He was supposed to be the one who taught you that you are valuable, protected, worthy of patience and presence. But he wasn't there, and in his absence, you learnt something else. You learn that male love is unreliable, that you have to earn attention, that if you're not perfect, not quiet, not easy, you'll be left again. So you become one of two things. You become the girl who chases unavailable men, hoping this time you'll be enough to make him stay. Or you become the girl who doesn't let anyone in at all, because the only way to avoid abandonment is to be the one who leaves first. This is called father hunger, and it's one of the most painful forms of longing because it disguises itself as everything else, as people-pleasing, as perfectionism, as choosing partners who are emotionally distant, angry, inconsistent, addicted, or just absent. You tell yourself you're attracted to them, but deep down, you're trying to rewrite the story. You're trying to prove that if you're just good enough, patient enough, understanding enough, this time he'll choose you, but he won't. Because the pattern isn't about him. It's about you still trying to win the love of a man who left when you were too young to understand it wasn't about you. And every time you lose yourself in someone who can't see you, you're not loving them. You're searching for him. Let's go deeper into what this does to the developing brain, because father absence doesn't just hurt emotionally, it alters neurobiology. Studies show that children who grow up without a father have higher levels of cortisol, the stress hormone. Their nervous systems are stuck in hypervigilance, constantly scanning for danger, for rejection, for the next person who will leave. This is not dramatics, this is science. Your brain adapted to survive an environment where love was unstable. And now, even when you're safe, even when someone loves you well, your body doesn't believe it. You wait for the other shoe to drop. You test them. You push them away to see if they'll come back. You sabotage intimacy because intimacy feels like the moment before loss. This is called disorganized attachment, and it's brutal because you crave closeness and fear it in equal measure. You want to be loved and you're terrified of needing it. So you live in this constant state of emotional whiplash, swinging between desperate connection and complete withdrawal. And people don't understand. They think you're complicated, difficult, damaged. But you're not damaged. You're adapted. Your nervous system learned that love equals pain, and it's trying to protect you the only way it knows how, by keeping you from ever feeling that kind of loss again. Now let's talk about the shame, because no one talks about this part. The part where you feel guilty for still caring, the part where you're 25, 35, 45, and you still think about him, still wonder where he is, still check social media to see if he has a life you were never part of, and you hate yourself for it, because shouldn't you be over this by now? Shouldn't you have healed, moved on, forgiven? But here's the truth. You can't forgive someone who never apologised. You can't move on from something that was never resolved. And you can't stop caring about someone who was supposed to be the foundation of your world. That's not weakness. That's humanity. That's a child inside you still waiting for him to come home. And the world doesn't give you space to grieve that. People say, you're better off without him. They say, at least you had your mum. They say, you turned out fine. But fine is not the same as whole. And you know the difference. You know what it's like to smile through Father's Day ads, to avoid certain questions at parties, to feel a flicker of something when you see a father playing with his daughter in the park, and you're not sure if it's sadness or envy or just the ache of what you'll never know. This is disenfranchised grief. Grief the world doesn't recognise. Grief you're not allowed to name because he's not dead. He's just gone. And somehow that's supposed to hurt less, but it doesn't. And here's where it shows up in adulthood, subtly and devastatingly. You might struggle with authority figures because every boss, every mentor, every older man reminds you of the one who let you down. You might overachieve, trying to prove you're worthy of the validation you never got. Or you might underachieve, because why try when no one's watching anyway? You might avoid commitment because commitment feels like a setup for abandonment, or you might cling too hard, mistaking intensity for intimacy, hoping that if you just hold on tight enough they won't slip away. You might have trouble trusting men, or worse, you might trust them too easily, handing your heart to anyone who shows you the smallest bit of attention because you're so starved for what you missed. These aren't character flaws, they're survival adaptations. They're what you had to become to make sense of a loss that made no sense. And the tragedy is this: you didn't just lose him, you lost the version of yourself who would have grown up believing you were worth staying for. So what do you do with this? First, you stop pretending it didn't matter. You stop minimizing. You stop telling yourself other people had it worse. Your pain is real, your loss is real, and it shaped you in ways you're still discovering. Second, you grieve. Not just him, but everything his absence stole from you. The childhood you didn't get, the security you never felt, the blueprint you never had, the questions you'll never get to ask. Let yourself cry for the little kid who waited by the window. Let yourself rage at the man who chose to leave. Let yourself feel the full weight of it, because what you don't feel, you repeat. Third, you separate his choices from your worth. This is the hardest part, because your brain learned early that his leaving meant something about you, but it didn't. He left because of his wounds, his fears, his inability to show up, and none of that, not one single piece of it, was your responsibility to fix or your fault to carry. You were a child, and you deserved better, full stop. Now here's the part that might break you, or save you. You have to become the father you needed, not literally, but emotionally. You have to learn to show up for yourself the way he didn't, to validate yourself, to protect yourself, to believe in yourself even when no one's watching. You have to reparent the child inside you who's still waiting for someone to come back, and you have to tell them the truth. Gently, kindly, firmly. He's not coming, and that's not your fault. But I'm here now, and I'm not leaving you. This is the work, not waiting for him to apologise, not hoping he'll change, not fantasising about the reunion where he finally explains why, but turning toward yourself and giving yourself the one thing he never did: presence. Carl Jung said, the greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parent. But you don't have to carry that anymore. You don't have to live in the shadow of his absence. You don't have to spend your life trying to fill a void that was never yours to fill. Because here's what no one tells you: you are not half a person because he left. You are not broken because you grew up without him. You are not defined by what you didn't have. You are the sum of every time you kept going when it would have been easier to give up. Every time you loved, even though love felt dangerous. Every time you chose to be the kind of person he wasn't. And that is not weakness. That is power. So if you grew up without a father, know this: you didn't deserve his absence. You didn't cause it. And you don't have to spend the rest of your life trying to prove you were worth staying for. You were. You always were. And the fact that he couldn't see it doesn't make it less true. You are allowed to grieve what you lost. You are allowed to be angry. You are allowed to still care and still hurt and still wish things were different. But you are also allowed to let go, to stop waiting, to stop hoping, to stop making his absence the centre of your story, because you are so much more than what he left behind. You are whole, you are enough, and you always have been. Even if he never told you, even if he never came back, even if he never knew what he missed, you were worth it. You are worth it. And no amount of absence can ever change that. You survived. You grew. You became someone despite the lack. And maybe, just maybe, that's the most powerful thing of all. You didn't need him to become who you are. And you don't need him now. You're finally free.